what you know about me.
I want to go back to your creative work. So I'm always curious for the young professionals that are coming up in the space, right? So you've done Super Bowl ads, you've done big creative works that were awarded throughout the industry. What is your creative process and what is it like working with the agency, right? Because like I'm always curious, like you're working on the Super Bowl campaign, there's so many moving pieces. So how do you make sure that your ideas are seen throughout all of those moving parts and pieces?
I think all of the work that I've done that has been massively awarded and applauded by the industry had pretty significant constraints. Like stuff that like a lot of brands would just be like, screw it, I can't do this. Take for example, my work at the Oscars. So for Airbnb couldn't advertise during the Oscars because there was already a hospitality brand blacking everything out, right? They're like, no hospitality brand can be here because XYZ hotel brand, had the lock. And so we're like, well, we can't have a spot, during the broadcast, which is like gold. We can't mention the broadcast at all. We can't mention the Oscars at all. And so those are massive constraints to go up against when your CMO is like, what's our Oscars campaign? And you're like, well, I can't mention the Oscars. I can't mention the broadcast. I can't mention all of these different things, right?
Wow.
And you're like, but how do I get around it? And you start thinking, well, all of those things are imposed on me as a brand. They are not imposed on the community and the people who follow me. Mm-hmm. So if I can ask them, what movies do they love and what movies would they want to live in an Airbnb? What would it be? Naturally, people said the Oscars. Naturally, people mentioned the broadcast. Naturally, people mentioned a bunch of different movies that I had no place in mentioning, but they can. Wow. And you effectively trick the system and get around the system, to generate more impressions, more conversations than any of the headline sponsors. And that campaign was called Live in the Movies. And we only asked one question, and that was, if you could live in any movie, what would it be and why? And all we did for every response, because this is where the law kind of stops, is that we can respond to every single one of the comments that was happening with the listing catered to their answer. We just had to do a lot of planning, a lot of scenario planning, and you just take over the entire joint, right? And that one clean swept, Webby's, Clio's, easy. Like that was a layup. That was a layup, just straight up. So that was really good. That I felt like that had massive constraints. Another one.
I'm gonna say, just before you go, Eric, I just want to stop for everybody listening. So what the brilliance in that ad, all those constraints he had, he couldn't name the brand, he had them do. So what that was a great iteration of a UGC campaign.
Correct.
Great. And so for those who's listening, guys, is user-generated content.
Yes.
So essentially, he used his audience in order to spread the word for him and basically had that be the campaign. And then think about how brilliant it is for what movie you want to live in. Think about any movie you would want to live in, like whether it's Home Alone, whether it's this.
We had it ready. We had it ready to go. We had it locked and loaded. Yeah.
Oh, man, that is brilliant. So, guys, that was major. And I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but I thought that was a great learning moment.